Diana, the last Amazon, the princess of hell, has come to the world of man to aid them against the harbingers of evil. But are they prepared for what's to come next? Welcome to the Comicstorian Complete Story Series, where we take trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then we read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to support the industry and check it out at your local comic shop. Absolute Wonder Woman by Kelly Thompson continues today with issue number 2. I hope you enjoy. Gateway City. The massive creature known as the Harbinger, from the depths of the ocean, steps forward, but is met by Diana, who stalks up the Gateway City beach with her magic lasso whipping around her body. The Harbinger fires a blast of energy from its great eyes, which Diana dodges under. She lashes out with her lasso, striking the monster across the face. "That is but a taste, Harbinger Prime. Retreat now and save yourself," she orders. But the monster bellows for its minions, and the small lizard-like creatures launch forward, swarming over Diana. "Retreat is doom, you fool," the Harbinger rumbles. Diana throws up a protective spell and knocks away the small creatures with her lasso. The Harbinger has left her no choice, and she whirls the weapon over her head and tosses it around the great beast's neck. "Hear me, Harbinger Prime. This is a weapon forged in the fires of hell, fashioned by the sorceress Circe and made from the remains of the last basilisk. It binds and burns in proportion to your sins," Diana tells the monster. Harbinger Prime roars with pain as its skin begins to sizzle. "Release me, Amazon! Release me!" the Harbinger Prime yells, his screams of pain shaking the buildings around them. Diana nods her head. "You shall have your freedom on one condition only, Harbinger Prime," she tells the monster, ordering the creature to return to the depths from whence it came and tell its master that the earth is now under the protection of Diana of the Wild Isle, Princess of Hell, and the last Amazon. The Harbinger stares at her for a moment before finally dipping its head in submission. "We accept," it rumbles. Diana nods and releases the creature, allowing it to return to the ocean, its small minions following close behind. Diana lowers to the ground, watching as the ocean returns to its former calm. Behind her, the smoke of the battle billows, and as the smoke begins to blow in the ocean breeze, a lone soldier steps through. "Diana?" he asks. The princess turns slowly and regards her lost friend. "Steve," she says gently. Before, on the shores of the Wild Isle, Diana was walking one day and discovered a man washed up on the shore. Rushing to his side, she leaned over his battered body. Please tell them I'm sorry," Steve gasps. His eyes flutter for a moment and close. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" Diana wonders quietly to herself. Lifting the man in her arms, she rushes back to their home. Circe turns in shock as the door bursts open and Diana rushes inside, the man in her arms. "Mother, bring the Cerberus fur. It's the warmest," Diana shouts as she lays Steve in her bed. She quickly tells her mother the story of finding the man on the beach, and even Circe is shocked by the tale. Finally, she sighs and turns to their kitchen. "I'll put the kettle on," she mutters. Later, Steve awakens to find Diana sitting with him. She offers him a warm cup of tea, explaining where she found him. "So, where are we?" Steve finally asks. Diana looks away sheepishly. "Well, this is going to be hard. You're in the underworld," she tells him. Steve springs out of the bed in shock. "Wait, hell? I'm dead?" he shouts. The two women shrug. "Not exactly," they say. Steve sits back on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands, muttering to himself. I'll just give you a minute with that, Diana says softly. Later, Steve joins the two for dinner, apologizing to them for his outburst. Cersei introduces herself with a shake of his hand. Fortunately for you, you landed on the Wild Isle, which, thanks to Diana and myself, is the safest place to be, if you have to be in hell, she explains. Steve nods, his mind still reeling, but he turns to Diana and asks her to show him where he washed up on the shore. As the two walk along the beach, Steve explains that he thought he had lived a good life, that he didn't believe that he would be going to hell when he died. Diana shrugs. Here's what I think. Not everyone here belongs here. It's just sometimes where we've ended up, she tells him. The two of them stare out on the ocean for a time until Steve finally turns back to her. Thank you for saving me. Twice, he tells her softly. Diana smiles. You're welcome. Gateway City, now. The two stand on the beach for a moment, regarding each other. But Diana rushes forward and hugs the man. Finally, she pulls away and smiles. I hoped I would see you, but I never dreamt it would be today, she tells him. Steve smiles back. What are you doing here? He asks. Diana shrugs as Pegasus lands nearby. Saving the day, she explains. Steve nods, telling her that the military command wants to speak to her, though she might not like their attitude. Diana nods and motions for Steve to lead the way. You do not need to warn me, Stephen. I am not entirely naive in the world of men. I had a teacher with a sharp tongue in these things, as you well know, she tells him. But minutes later, Diana is standing tall, while a rather short general yells at her about the destruction that she caused while supposedly helping stop the monster that attacked Gateway City. When the general had stopped to take a breath, Diana finally spoke. I understand your position, Commander. I am an outsider and an element you can't control, and that frustrates you. But this is not my problem, Diana says, explaining that her real problem is the next monster that will arrive, and that more lives will be lost if they do nothing. But I will coordinate with you to the best of my ability. This world is not prepared for what is coming, and you will need my help, she tells him. The general is shocked as Diana turns away from him and looks at the tactical maps of the city. How is the evacuation proceeding? She asks a nearby officer. The tone in her voice doesn't invite questions, and the officer immediately begins to give her answers. Slow, but we were going to stop the orders. You killed the monster, right? Or send it home? He asks. Diana shakes her head. I did, but that was just a harbinger. A messenger of things to come, she says, warning them that the next creature could arrive within the hour, and that they need to evacuate at least a mile away from the coastline. The general gives the order to continue the evac, but turns back to Diana and Steve and begins to shout again. Finally, Diana has had enough. She steps up and stands over the general, seeming more imposing than before, anger flashing in her eyes. I think we both know you need me quite badly given what just happened, but I don't need you at all. So perhaps rethink how you would like to approach this conversation, and we'll retry this when you've calmed down. Hopefully before more innocent lives have been lost, she says. She turns away and storms towards the entrance to the command center. I'll be outside, feeding my horse, she snaps over her shoulder. Steve follows her outside to find her feeding magical energy to the skeletal Pegasus. Steve steps forward and pets the undead steed, who nuzzles him with his bony muzzle. I'm sorry about what happened in there, Steve tells her. Diana nods her head. It's disappointing, but I expected it, she tells him. She informs Steve that other heroes will appear to fight what's coming, but Pegasus rears up and whines before she can explain more. A wave of magical energy washes over the city, and Diana turns to see the soldiers falling to the ground and clutching their heads. She moves forward, pushing through the psychic energy. She approaches the beach and stares in shock. Steve joins her, and they both stare up in horror at the great creature that has risen from the waters. "Oh my God, Diana, what is it?" he asks. "Death personified," she whispers. She begins to walk forward, ordering Steve and the others to completely evacuate the city. "I'll buy you some time, but the Tetracide leaves nothing behind," she says as she moves forward into the water, the great monster rising up before her. And the story of the last Amazon continues, and it looks like Diana might be in a little over her head. Will she be able to defeat the monstrous Tetracide? You'll have to subscribe and join us next time when the next part comes out. And of course, if you enjoyed today's video, give it a like and leave a comment down below. And we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.